never used to pay attention to strange sounds. Living in a rundown studio apartment, you get used to things. The pipes bang. The floor creaks. The walls are so thin you can hear your neighbor sneeze at midnight. You tune it all out eventually. You have to. But this was different. It started with the smell. I moved in during the winter, when the cold masked most of it. But once spring came around, the heat brought something else. Something I couldn't explain. It wasn't the smell of mold or garbage. It was stale. Like breath. Like someone had been locked away for too long. I cleaned everything. I scrubbed the sink, took out the trash twice a day. Even bought a dehumidifier. Nothing changed. It always came back, strongest in the morning, like it had settled overnight. I asked the landlord. He said it was probably the building's age. Old pipes, old wood, old problems. I wanted to believe him, so I let it go. Then came the tapping. At first, I thought it was something outside. Maybe birds on the roof, or a loose shutter. But it wasn't rhythmic, like a branch swaying in wind. It was slow, careful. Tap, pause. Tap, tap, pause. I started sleeping with music playing, just to drown it out. It helped for a while, until one night, the tapping changed. It became deliberate, like someone was trying to match my breathing, or wait for me to stop moving. I remember sitting up in bed, heart racing, holding my breath just to listen. And there it was, just above me. A faint scrape, metal on metal. I looked up at the vent. It was one of those old square ones screwed into the ceiling. I'd never paid much attention to it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. I told myself it was probably a raccoon in the walls, or rats. I didn't want to think beyond that. Then the whispering started. Not every night, just some. Always around the same time, between 2 and 3 a.m. It was too soft to make out words, more like breathing that occasionally formed a syllable. I thought I was going insane. I actually recorded it on my phone one night, played it back in the morning. Nothing, just static. But I heard it. I know I did. One morning, I woke up and the closet light was on. I never turn it on. It has a pull chain that's hard to reach. I chalked it up to me being forgetful. Sleepwalking maybe. Stress. That night, I made sure everything was off. Doors locked. Closet closed. I even took a picture before bed. The next morning, the closet was open. Not just cracked, wide open. And sitting on the floor was a single sock I hadn't seen in months. That's when I bought the camera. A cheap one from Amazon. Motion activated. I set it up in the corner of the room, pointed at the bed and the vent. I didn't tell anyone. I just wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. The first 2 nights, nothing. Just me tossing and turning. But on the third night, around 2:17 a.m., I watched the footage with a pit in my stomach. The vent cover shifted. Slowly. Just enough to see a hand reach out and push it aside. Fingers. Long, thin fingers. Something was crawling out. I stopped the video. I couldn't breathe. My throat closed up like I'd swallowed glass. I should have called the cops right then, but I didn't. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the phone. I just sat there and stared at the screen. After about a minute, the hand pulled back. The vent slid shut again. The next night, I left all the lights on. Didn't sleep. Just sat on the couch with a bat in my hand, and the front door locked twice. When I finally fell asleep around 5 a.m., it was more like passing out. I woke up and everything seemed normal, until I went to make my bed. There was a note, right under my pillow. A piece of torn notebook paper, yellowed at the edges, with handwriting so shaky it looked like it had been written during an earthquake. It said, "Don't tell them I'm here." That was it. I stood in the middle of the room, holding that note, for 10 minutes. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I didn't know who them was, or who had written it, or how they'd gotten so close to me while I slept. I called the police. I told them someone had broken in, left a note. They sent 2 officers, took a report, looked around, told me it was probably a prank, that there were no signs of forced entry. I showed them the camera footage. They didn't laugh after that. They brought in maintenance, had the building's crawl spaces inspected. When they unscrewed the vent, the guy pulled his head back out and said, "You're going to want to see this." Behind the vent was a hollow space, just wide enough for someone to squeeze through. It led into an unused part of the attic. There were food wrappers, water bottles, a sleeping bag, a pile of clothes, a notebook full of scribbles, pages and pages of names, dates, drawings, and photos of me. Me brushing my teeth, me asleep, me eating dinner, some taken from high angles, like from above the door frame or ceiling. He'd been watching me for months. The cops found him the next night, hiding behind insulation panels. He didn't fight, just smiled, said something about the quiet upstairs and how the vent was cozy. He had a copy of my apartment key, said he made it after borrowing mine while I showered. He knew my schedule, knew when I left for work, when I came home, said I was his quiet friend. They arrested him. I don't know what happened after that. The landlord changed the locks, sealed the vent, offered me 2 months rent-free if I stayed. I moved out the next day. That was a year ago. I still sleep with the lights on. And sometimes, just sometimes, I think I hear tapping. Not loud, just enough to remind me. I never really lived alone. For the second story, I wish I could say it was mine alone to carry, but it began with my daughter, and some part of me still believes it never really ended. Her name is Emily. She turned 4 when this all started. That age when everything becomes a question, when their imagination runs wild and they start building little worlds in their heads, worlds you're no longer allowed into. That's what I thought this was. It started with an imaginary friend. She called him Mr. Hollow. At first, it was harmless. She talked to empty corners of her room, whispered during bath time, and giggled into her pillow like she was sharing secrets. She would draw these long, messy crayon sketches. At first, I thought they were trees or towers, but she corrected me. "That's Mr. Hollow," she said. "He doesn't have a face because he traded it for a secret." She told me this with a seriousness only a child could carry, and then went back to playing with her stuffed rabbit. I laughed it off. Kids have imaginary friends all the time. Maybe she picked it up from a show. Maybe it was just a phase. But then things started to change. Emily stopped wanting to sleep with her nightlight on. She said it made Mr. Hollow mad. Said he liked it dark, so he could stretch better. I didn't understand what that meant, and when I asked, she just said, "You'll see." I kept brushing it off. Parenting as a single father isn't easy, and when you're juggling work, exhaustion, and worry, it's easy to dismiss things that don't make immediate sense. You tell yourself your kid is just being creative. Then one night, as I was tucking her in, she looked up at me and said, completely calm, "Mr. Hollow told me you're going to die in your sleep." She didn't smile. She didn't laugh. It wasn't a joke. I just froze. I asked her why she'd say something like that. She shrugged. "He told me. He said he's already started." That was the first night I didn't sleep. The next morning, I locked her bedroom door from the outside. It made me feel like a monster, but something inside me was screaming. Like a voice I hadn't heard in years, finally decided to speak up. When I opened her door in the morning, the first thing I noticed was her fingernails. They were bloody. She had scratched the paint off the inside of the door. Chunks of wood scattered across the carpet. Her hands were trembling, and her eyes weren't scared. They looked empty. She looked at me and said, "He didn't like that." That was the day I started documenting everything. Not because I wanted to prove anything to anyone, but because I needed to believe there was something I could do. I installed a baby monitor in her room, one of those with night vision and audio. I didn't tell her. I didn't want to make things worse. That night, I sat in my room with the monitor next to me, eyes locked on the screen. Minutes dragged, then hours. Nothing happened until 3:33 a.m. She sat up, not slowly, not groggily. She sat up like someone had pulled her up by a string, and she stared directly at the camera. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. A faint smile stretched across her face, too long, too still. She didn't move for 7 full minutes. 7 minutes. And then I saw it. In the corner of the room, behind her bed, something shifted. A figure. Thin, tall, unmoving. No features. Just the shape of a man. I ran. I kicked her door open so hard it slammed into the wall. She turned to look at me like I'd interrupted something. The corner was empty. I checked the monitor, rewound it, watched it again. The figure was still there. But when I showed it to my friend the next day, it was gone. The footage glitched. Cut out for 7 minutes. Like it had never happened. Emily didn't talk much the following days. She'd hum to herself, scribble in her notebook. Always the same figure. Always with long arms and no face. One morning, I woke up with a drawing pinned to my bedroom door. It was me, lying in bed, with something standing over me, watching. I confronted her. I didn't raise my voice. I just asked, "Why did you draw this?" She looked up, confused. "I didn't," she said. "Mr. Hollow did. He said you needed to know what's coming." That's when I broke. I called my sister, begged her to take Emily for a weekend. I told her I needed a break. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't press. That Friday, I dropped Emily off with her. She waved goodbye like nothing had happened. Like she wasn't the reason I hadn't slept in a week. Like she hadn't warned me I was going to die. I went home and tried to rest, tried to feel peace. But I couldn't shake the sense that I wasn't alone. That night, I checked the monitor even though Emily wasn't there. I wanted to delete the footage, move on, but the feed wasn't empty. At 3:33 a.m., the camera turned on by itself, and in the center of the room, something was standing, not moving, not pacing, just waiting. I unplugged it and threw it in the trash. The next morning, I found the camera on my bed, plugged in, with a new video. Me, sleeping, from inside the room. I didn't tell anyone after that. I knew what it would sound like. I tried to act normal. Picked Emily up Sunday evening. She smiled, said she had fun, said Mr. Hollow missed me. I didn't respond. I wanted to believe it would stop. That was just a phase. That if I ignored it, it would fade away. It didn't. That week, the drawings changed. They weren't of Mr. Hollow anymore. They were of me. Me screaming. Me in a box. Me in the ground. One of them had the words, "He's getting closer." I burned that one. I started sleeping in the living room. I kept Emily in my room with the door locked. I told her it was a game. We made pillow forts and watched cartoons until she fell asleep. She didn't ask for Mr. Hollow, but sometimes I'd wake up to find her sitting on the edge of the couch, staring into the hallway. I told him no, she whispered once, but he's not happy. I didn't know what to do. Therapy felt like a joke. The few people I confided in told me to get her tested, that maybe she was dealing with trauma, but they didn't see what I saw. They didn't live with a cold that crept in every night around the same time. They didn't hear the whispers in the walls, or the laughter coming from rooms that should have been empty. The final straw came on a Wednesday. I had just put her to bed and was in the kitchen washing dishes when I heard a knock. Not at the door, from inside the bedroom. 3 knocks, then silence. I ran, threw the door open. She was under the covers, shaking. I pulled her into my arms, asked her what happened. "He said it's your turn now," she whispered. "He said I passed the secret to you." That night, I didn't sleep, and I haven't slept through the night since. We moved shortly after. I threw out everything from the old house. Toys, furniture, clothes, everything. I got a new job, a new phone number. I deleted every photo of the house, every video. Emily doesn't talk about Mr. Hollow anymore. She barely remembers any of it. She says it feels like a dream she once had, a long, dark dream. But I remember, and I still wake up at 3:33 a.m. almost every night. Not because I want to, but because something always wakes me. And when I sit up, I swear for a moment, I see someone standing just outside the bedroom door, watching, waiting. The third story is mine, and I don't care if it sounds crazy, because I need someone else to hear this before I stop seeing my own face. It started the day after we buried my brother, Caleb. He died in a car crash. I wasn't there. No one was. It happened on a highway just outside town. Single vehicle accident. They said it was instant. No suffering. That's what they told us anyway. What do you even say to that? I remember standing at the funeral, next to my mom, who hadn't stopped crying since she got the call. I remember staring down at the casket and thinking, this doesn't feel real. Caleb was the loud one, the wild one, the type who filled every room he walked into. And now he was still, closed off, silent, just a shape under a box of polished wood. The silence didn't stop after the funeral. It followed me home, settled into every corner of my apartment. I kept expecting him to text me something stupid, or call me while half drunk and laughing. Instead, I got a voicemail from his number. It came the next morning, while I was making coffee, eyes red from sleep. The notification just popped up. One new voicemail. Caleb. My stomach dropped. I told myself it had to be a glitch. Maybe the phone company recycling numbers. Maybe a delayed message he sent before the crash. I pressed play. At first, it was just static. Not like bad reception static. More like a low, grinding noise, like metal dragging across pavement. Then I heard his voice. Clear. Uneasy. He said, "Don't trust the man in the mirror." That was it. No hello. No emotion. Just those words. Then silence. I froze. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the counter. I didn't breathe for maybe a full minute. When I finally got the courage to replay it, the message was gone. Like it had never been there. I tried calling the number back. Disconnected. No longer in service. I thought I was losing it. Chalked it up to grief. My brain trying to hold on to scraps of him. But that night, I saw it. The mirror in my bathroom has always had a small crack on the bottom edge. Barely noticeable. But when I walked in that night, brushing my teeth like any normal day, I noticed my reflection blinked, slightly off from me. Not a full delay. Just wrong. I squinted. Moved my hand. It followed, but too slowly. I tilted my head. It lagged. Then caught up. I told myself I was tired. Maybe the lighting. Maybe I was just jumpy because of the voicemail. But when I leaned closer, it smiled. I didn't. It smiled without me. A full, closed lip grin. Cold. Intentional. I stumbled back and dropped my toothbrush. The smile faded. The reflection reset. Like nothing had happened. I stood there for 10 minutes, staring at myself, waiting for something to happen again. It didn't. I slept with the lights on that night. In the morning, I smashed the mirror, and then the one in the hallway, and the one in my bedroom closet. Glass everywhere. But it made me feel better. Until I went out for groceries. Every store, every elevator, every reflective surface made my stomach churn. I found myself avoiding bathroom stalls with mirrors, walking fast past shop windows, covering my rearview mirror with duct tape. Because every time I caught a glimpse of myself, something felt off, like I was being studied. A week passed. I stopped telling people. My friends already thought I was spiraling from the grief. They were being supportive in that polite, distant way people are when they don't know what to say. I kept telling myself, "You're grieving. That's all this is. You just miss your brother." Then I got the second voicemail. Same number. Same message alert. Same gut-wrenching fear when I saw the name Caleb on my screen. I played it. This time it wasn't even words. Just a whisper. Right against the mic. Like someone was in the phone with their lips touching it. A whisper that said, "Too late." That's it. Then static. But it wasn't white noise this time. I swear I could hear something underneath it. Breathing. Soft footsteps. Like someone pacing in a room they thought was empty. The message didn't disappear this time. I saved it. I tried showing it to a friend later that day. But when I hit play, it was silent. Just 5 seconds of nothing. But I could still hear it. In my head. Too late. That night, I didn't sleep. Every noise in the apartment made me jump. I turned off every light, except for the lamp beside my bed. I avoided the bathroom. Didn't even go near the broken mirror shards. And still something felt wrong. Around 3 a.m., I got up to get water. My throat felt like sand. I walked past the bathroom without looking. But when I stepped into the kitchen, I stopped cold. My feet were wet. I looked down, nothing. Floor was dry. But I turned to the microwave and caught a reflection in the glass door. Footprints. Not on the ground. On the bathroom mirror. 2 of them. Pressed against the inside. Like someone was standing behind the glass. I didn't look. I couldn't. I grabbed my keys, threw on my shoes, and ran out the front door like the apartment was on fire. I slept in my car. Next morning, I walked back in, heart pounding. The footprints were gone. The mirror, which I had shattered, looked intact again. No cracks, no blood, no glass on the floor. Like it had reset, like he had put it back. That's when I stopped pretending I was just grieving. I started digging, not just into Caleb's accident, but into the messages. I searched every conspiracy forum I could find. Mirror superstitions, spirit attachments, digital hauntings. I found a thread, one post, buried deep on a dead subreddit. Someone describing something eerily similar. A brother, a crash, then a voicemail, then mirror anomalies. Their post ended mid-sentence. I messaged them. No reply. That night, my laptop wouldn't power on. When I checked my phone, it was stuck on the voicemail app. The screen frozen. The message looping. Too late. Too late. Too late. That's when I started seeing him. Not my reflection. Him. He looked like me. But the smile was always too wide. The eyes, too empty. Like someone wearing my skin. Sometimes I catch a flicker of him, standing behind me in reflections I didn't even know were there. Car windows, toasters, puddles. He doesn't move. He waits. I've been keeping the apartment as mirror-free as possible, but I can't go outside without seeing myself. There are too many surfaces, too many chances. I don't know what he wants, but I think Caleb was trying to warn me. Don't trust the man in the mirror. I think he saw him too. Maybe in that final moment, right before the crash. Maybe he saw his own reflection move wrong. Smile when he didn't. And maybe that's who drove him off the road. Maybe it wasn't an accident at all. Maybe the reflection took control. And now it's coming for me. I haven't looked at myself in a week. I cover everything. I dress in the dark. I shave by feel. But I still catch glimpses. In my dreams. In the corners of my vision. Sometimes I wake up and find a reflection staring at me from across the room, even when there's no mirror. And I swear last night, it mouthed something. Not with my lips. With its. It said, "You should have listened." I don't know how long I have, but I think the next time I see him in the mirror, he won't be on the other side. Still here? That means you're one of us. Hit subscribe and keep the lights off. NeuroNightmares isn't done with you yet.